Do. Bow, bow, bow. All right, we rolling? This is Freedom Phil out here from Wasteland, and what's the topic today? This Canadian mass event. You see, more often now, we're seeing a lot of these mass incidents are coming from the tea community. I'm sorry, but it's something people are noticing, whether it's furries or the teas or whatever. And I'm not putting it on the teas or the furries. I'm just saying we're noticing an interesting correlation. And sometimes I wonder, between all the drugs that we feed children, I was a Ritalin kid myself, because if you haven't noticed, I'm kind of ADHD. We're hopping these kids up on all these pills, and then we see some of the weird internet psychoses that come out, weird syndromes. And for people to think, well, you can't just program people. I don't know, man. I've seen some weird things over the years. And if you lived back through, the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, man, you've probably seen a lot more, man. Where am I going with this? This is Freedom Phil. Like, subscribe. Let's get into it, and always turn up the video speed. And why do I always say that? Because the name of the channel is what you're supposed to do. When I upload it, watch it at 1.75, man. Video's faster. Let's get into it. Like, subscribe. Oh, yeah, and hit the bell, just in case you want to hear this stuff when it's happening live. So I'm watching the news, and I'm hearing this situation where, from what I heard, this guy, gal, whatever you want to say, Minecrafted his mother and a bunch of people at a school. And they show this video of the dude, and he was just hysterically laughing. Now, I'm not trying to defend the dude, but I have been high before myself, and I have seen something so funny that I couldn't stop laughing. When it's just, and you watch the little meme over and over again. I've done that, but one person, their statement was, you see something like this, and you're like, you can see evil in the world. So maybe if that's the case, maybe not. But I would say a lot of the problems we see in the modern era is because of bad homes, bad parenting, people seeking trends, especially mothers that seek trends, mothers that literally value the social approval of a bunch of people they don't even know, being part of the group. Like when it came to all these people trying to transition their children. Well, my kid might be trans. Your kid might just be into a fashion style. And by the way, I got a lot of pushback when I said that. I was online and I put up a comment and I'm like, no, this is just, most of these people aren't legitimate trans. And I even stated I had a lot of respect for the old school trannies. And some people were like, you can't say that word because, it's offensive. Fuck you. You look at what the old school trannies had to fight through way back in the day. And then you look at this fashion trend. Because that's what it is. It's a fact. A lot of it, people are just trans trenders. And some of them get off on the power. Like, you can't question what we're saying or doing because, then you're transphobic. Can't be against the teas. There's a lot of people that fall into a syndrome, psychosis of sorts. A lot of people don't understand what I mean by that. You remember how it wasn't that many years ago that people cutting themselves, I want to bleed away the pain. I told a relative of mine, I said, that shit's retarded. What the fuck are you doing? You just don't get it. I'm like, fuck yeah, I don't get it. But there are tons of people doing that. And sometimes you'll hear these stories about people online that self-delete. They go out, they're kind of nudged forward by fucking freakazoids on the internet. There's something about some people out there that are just susceptible. Just the same way that some of these activists at these protests, I would call them more like agitators. It reminds me of like the religious zealotry you would see with like religion, like Christianity or Islam or anything, where once the people feel like we have the numbers and we're right, it doesn't matter what fuck shit you're doing because you're doing it for the right reasons. that same mob mentality fervor, I think, does translate to weak people's minds in the internet. I don't know what I'm saying ain't popular, but I have seen people do some of the craziest shit because it was a trend. And you get some of these people, you've been giving them mind-altering chemicals. And don't fool yourself, puberty blockers, just like Ritalin, Adderall, and all the other fucking sea of cocktails that you're giving these children, he's fucking with their heads. There are some people who legitimately have some problems. But I often think a lot of these kids that have problems usually have shitty parents or self-absorbed parents. Like they had a kid not as the end goal. They had it as a check mark. Their marriage was a check mark. Their divorce was just another step along their life. And then, for instance, they've made comments about this with the black community and broke-ass white families as well. Feminism proudly broke up the home. Well, what do you do when you're a young mother that now you're not so young? You're about 13 years into this stuff, and you got a young, rambunctious boy, and there ain't no man around to set him straight. Well, the government had an answer for that. Just feed them pills. God forbid we have a stable household. God forbid we have something that was normal for thousands of years. And look, not every marriage is going to work out. But we have encouraged people to basically forego marriage altogether in times. There will be women that will want a man's seed, but not really want to be a wife. You'll see mothers like becoming a single mom, and they be pissed off that the dude didn't want to be a dad or whatever the reason is. It's like, bitch, you just let that man come up inside you because one of your friends had a kid, you wanted to have a baby too. And then these children that are hard to control, being raised by the TV, raised by the cell phone, raised by the computer screen, much like music kind of raised generations back in the day, turn on the radio. These kids are now spending more time on screens, on pills, on eventually drugs of some sort, legal, pharmaceutical, or straight up some shit off the streets. And their fucking minds are warped. Straight up warped. I think a lot of these problems with these shootings, these mass incidents, and right now you're just seeing a bunch of people that are in the T community, some T's or some furries or something. You're just seeing more of it. Because it seems like the people that are more susceptible to doing this crazy stuff are probably people that came from fucked up families. In some cases, where you see where the family did everything right and the kid's still a fucking dummy, well, that happens too. But just like, and it's tough. It's a tough conversation for most people. Like when you go out there and you bring up the same type of statistics, like with the black community. No offense, but let's be real. How many of those dudes running in the streets had a normal, stable family life? And you're not supposed to talk about that. You talk about, the kind of casual atmosphere of murder. Well, you can't say, yeah, fuck yeah, I could say that. You turn on the TV anytime and look up what's going on in the major cities in America. And they brush that under the rug. I think we've basically brushed what could be argued is for selfish fucking parents, both men and women, what is a slow, casual abuse of our children. I mean, the hope and the optimism that previous generations might have had is less and less. The light of hope is dimming. That was the last thing in the box Pandora opened. Got to keep that around. The idea that you could go out and get a decent job, do things the normal way, not like the extremist stuff I do with my level of minimalism. These kids aren't seeing a bright future with what we see in the schools, the high schools. Basically, women are basically told to be, no offense, ladies, but fucking whores. You're learning how to exploit you know, like, oh, I can get this guy to pay for this. Women have always been that way. Just no matter whether society keeps control over them. A little bit of positive shame. And like, ladies, you do what you want. But I'm just saying, we can see your hellacious behavior. Women are basically rewarded for doing that shit. Mocked if they go out and, you know, they say, hey, you want this? If they hold the line with no hymen, no diamond, they're like, hey, I'm keeping this till marriage. People mock a woman for that. Act like she's a prude. Boys, before I was born, have been told if you ain't slaying all the women you can get, if you ain't a sex fiend, you're a loser. And I can understand if someone has a little bit of freaky time, but this constant obsession, like the lack of trying to build perfection. You know, you can't really get perfection, but you can at least try for it. Like, what do you mean? Like, you give your kid a good solid plan, like, hey, we're going to teach you some trades. You're going to know accounting. You're going to understand compound interest. We're going to help you save money on rent. The money we're saving you now will pay off in dividends down the road when you don't have to be someone's slave for X money. Imagine you had some solid plan, solid family, and solid... The hope wasn't just hope like praying. It was like, you know, because you've got a good plan and a good trajectory, you'll make it. How many of these kids these days in these single parent households don't have that? And when these kids act out, just feed them pills. Feed them fucking pills. And then some sort of new weird-ass social movement comes along where everybody's, like, you see these kids hissing at each other in a public school like cats, demanding that they get a litter box. That's a fucking social contagion. You get young boys that they ain't so masculine, and some of them are like, well, if I put on a dress, nobody can fuck with me. And the girls kind of dig me. You get women that act completely narcissistic, solipsistic, insane. I think it all starts at home, man. I think people really need to start admitting. I don't have kids myself, and I'll be honest, I didn't have kids because I saw the way the divorce courts were treating men. At least I didn't leave some bastard child somewhere. I'll just be real about it. But if we're being real about it, there's a lot of parents out there that are doing such a half-assed job that is producing, honestly, psychotic monsters. And it's fucked up because we live in what could be considered a golden age. This is a golden age, man. We have so many opportunities, so many ways to prosper. And yet people, and maybe that's just the truth of society. No matter how good or bad it is, everything becomes the baseline. If you're living through hard times, you just understand hard times. By the way, go listen to the song by Jerry Reed. And by the way, like and subscribe. Jerry Reed, Hard Times. What was it called? It was hot in the summer and cold in the winter, and it always seemed like we had beans for dinner. It was hard times. Love Jerry Reed. We need to re-download the entire 300 songs I had before. I just look at the situation in this country, and between the craziness online, I would say get your kids off the internet. Get your fucking kids off the internet. Take them outside. Go for a hike. Go fishing. Know what they're playing. Know what the games they're playing is. Yes, they're going to sneak on the internet occasionally, but man, fucking try being a parent. I know it's hard. But Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, why? And by the way, if you don't want to be a parent after you've had kids, why the fuck did you have them? And the answer for that is generally because all your friends were doing it. Well, occasionally, when you fuck up one of these kids bad enough and enough pills and enough things, puberty blockers, you know, psychoactive drugs, one of them's going to snap. And we're going to see these events continuing to happen as long as we have shitty parents. That's just my thoughts. It's Freedom Phil. Like and subscribe. Take it easy. Feel free to hit the bell if you want to hear this shit when it's happening live or when the videos upload. Yardy yar yar. Take it easy. Anyway, we got some comments here. Should maybe read them. People doing generic stuff. Yeah, women have definitely changed. Something flattening. Whatever floats the boat, people. All right, take it easy.